In Ecuador, they have a system of cave called the Caves de los Tallos. The tallos are a black bird that lives underground in caves. And these caverns are vast caverns. They're huge caverns. And there are apartments carved off the tunnels on both sides. And those apartments looked like they were made for beings who were 7 meters tall. The seats carved into the wall. When I sat on them, my legs are way off the floor. The beings that sat on those chairs and the beds they slept on were for 21-foot tall beings, 7 meters tall. So way back, 8 kilometers back in the caves, they found a skeleton of one of these beings, and the femur was a huge femur, and the doctors concluded that those belonged to a creature that was, at one time, was close to 7 meters tall. Jaime had what he called a tooth from one of the giants that he gave me. And I don't know where he got it, but I took it back to the States to have it forensically analyzed, and they quickly identified it as a mammoth tooth. It was big, but it looked like a human tooth. It was a mammoth molar. And they showed me that mammoths lived in South America a long time ago, in prehistoric South America, in that region. So that was not from the giant. But there's a priest in Loja, I think it is, in Ecuador, that has bones from the giant taken from the cave that are huge leg bones and huge fragments that nobody seems to be interested in them, because he said there's no such thing as a 20-foot tall human being. But there were 7-meter beings. When I look back in the annals of the conquistadors, one of the conquistadors married an Inca woman, and their son became interested in preserving the society of the Incas. The Incas didn't have a written form, but the son learned to write English from the Jesuit priests with the conquistadors, and he began writing down the history of the Incas. And he was writing from the word-of-mouth history, but in those annals of the history of the Incas, there's a whole chapter devoted to the giants that came ashore in northern Peru and went up into Ecuador that were 7 meters tall. Each one ate the food of 50 men of the people who lived in Peru. And so the Peruvians started desperately to kill them off because they were eating all the food. And they eventually drove them off. They left the coast and went into the jungle, which may have been how they got in the caves in the mountains of Ecuador. But they arrived in huge balsas that were built by the giants that came in from the Pacific, and they landed on the north coast of Peru. And there's a written history of the progress of those giants until they were driven into the jungles to the east from there and disappeared. So there is a history that shows, that backs up the story of the 7-meter giants in Ecuador. They may have been survivors of that expedition that arrived from somewhere in huge balsa boats on the north coast of Peru. There is a history.